Hello and happy Wednesday. Today we have a little fun bonus episode for you. We're welcoming my friend and fellow wedding photographer, India Jade, onto the Busy Bride podcast. India is such a joy to be around and to talk to, and we had such a great time chatting about photography, marriage, wedding pet peeves, and how much we just love. So, without any further ado, let's get into it. Hello and welcome to the Busy Bride podcast. I'm your host, Gabriella Marie, and I created this podcast to help you research vendors and learn valuable advice as you plan the most special and true to you wedding day of your dreams. Let's get started. Hello, India. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you on.
Hi, Gabriella. Thank you for having me.
This is going to be so much fun. So, we are photography friends.
Yes.
We met at a conference, like a creative business conference in Dallas, Texas.
Heck
But
yeah.
neither of us live there.
No. And we don't live close either. Are you in Philly?
I'm in Philly and you
Yep.
are in Ohio.
Yep. I'm in Columbus, Ohio. So we are
Columbus, Ohio.
distant friends and photography friends over Instagram.
Yes, which honestly still counts nowadays.
Yes, it totally does.
Yes. So usually this podcast, I either do like solo episodes filled with like wedding tips or I interview past brides or like local wedding vendors. But I thought it'd be fun to talk with a fellow wedding photographer just about like our perspective on weddings and things we love and just all of the things. I don't know. So that's what we're gonna do today.
I love it. I know. I think it's so important. There's like so much that photographers know and like things that we're like, oh, this preference would actually make your photos better or make you feel more relaxed in front of a camera. So I'm glad we get to do this because there's a lot of little secrets that I'm like, I think photographers could educate clients better on this or something. And so I hope that this is helpful for anyone who's listening, who's getting married or might be in front of a camera soon. So,
Yes, me too. And honestly, based on what you just said, I have a question already that I just want to dive right
okay.
in.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, when couples say that they want candid pictures during their sessions, more so during their sessions and not during their weddings, as photographers, I know at least on my side, I still think that candids involve some guidance.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
That's a really good point. I think yes and no. I think true candids can be in the moment photos. If you think of like photojournalism, someone's going around with a camera and trying to capture the action of what's happening, the story of what's happening, and they may or may not intervene with a scene at all. Like they might just be an observer and trying to put their take on something going on. But when you see certain photos, like the New York Times has great photojournalism, and they'll do interviews with someone and they're in a very specific like position or they look a certain way or they're at like a rock and roll show, like people know the presence of a camera. And sometimes we have guests at weddings who are like, whoa, like don't take a picture of me, and they'll make a joke about like breaking the camera or something. And it's like, if people are aware, oh, there's a camera present, like I want to be on a certain way or behave a certain way, and that can affect the picture, whether it's a candid or a pose picture. Um, so I think it's just an interesting thing. Like when people want it for a session, maybe they do know how to act candidly and they can act completely normal and they're like, I know I'm getting a photo and I want me smiling and like dancing around a field with my fiance or something, and they still know that there's that camera present, but they might be extra giggly or smile more and know what it takes to kind of make it feel like a candid at the end of the day. But I do think for most people who aren't used to being in front of a camera or just might not know how to get themselves to feel comfortable with even just another person present, right? Because there's always a photographer there clicking the button. um, I think it does take more guidance often than people realize. And so the things that photographers do and the personalities we bring to the table can be like that thing that can make or break a session and get those quality candids like to actually happen.
Absolutely. Yes. I know weddings, it's a lot easier to get true candids because there are things happening constantly,
Yeah,
always people chit-chatting, like there's always something that's happening next. And so because there are other things going on, it's easier to capture people in the moment because they are less focused on the presence of a camera.
exactly.
Um, but with sessions like engagement sessions, couple sessions, you are there for the purpose of being photographed. And so it's a lot harder to separate and be like, there's no camera there. We're just on a stroll.
Right.
So some people, again, they're great at that and totally can do it. But to get candid photos of like authentic emotions,
Mhm.
sometimes there is like some guidance involved. So that's can be something like I know something I can do is I have like a zoom lens so I can be far
Yeah,
away. So I can tell a couple like to either stand in a certain spot or kind of walk through a certain area and talk about a specific topic. So like talk about the moment you first met each other. And so that's going to bring a smile to your face because you
yes.
love that person and that's going to be a happy memory. So that is a way to like guide into authentic emotion because you're being told like, oh, I get to talk about this a really happy moment while we walk this way holding hands, cool.
100%.
But you were
Yeah.
told to do that, so it's hard, it's a hard thing to say like, well, they are candid but not quite, but they still are.
Yeah, and I think that comes down to language. We can even say things like documentary photography. It's similar to candid, but it's adding this level of like we're documenting this walk or this activity. And I think a lot of the candid or documentary wedding photographers who kind of market themselves that way to couples, they do a lot of actions with their couples like, hey, let's paint a picture together in this field. And so it's like we're just documenting now what's happening. And so it's less performative and more like you said, authentic, so the couple can kind of sink down into that moment and be like, oh, I'm working on painting a picture with my fiance or spouse. This is so different than being like, I have to be on for a camera or be a certain way. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting balance, but I think language and again, that photographer's like personality and presence can really help those couples open up a certain way and feel a lot more comfortable in front of the camera.
Absolutely, because you need to feel comfortable with the person who's taking your picture.
Yeah.
That is huge. And like you said, painting a picture in the field, incorporating activities into sessions is
Hmm.
a very easy way to get more candid pictures because again, you're focused on something else instead of the camera. So picking something that you love to do as a couple, even as something as simple as walking your dog, like
Yeah.
taking your dog to their favorite field that they want to run around in. Um, like that can it feels true to you in the pictures because that's what you already love doing, and it's because you love doing it, you're gonna be happy, and then that's some authentic emotion right there.
Right, right. I like to say too sometimes make it a date night experience instead of like a photo shoot. So that's like I mean, obviously that's kind of different for different photographers' style. Some people like doing like, "Hey, meet at my studio. We've got the camera, we got the lights." Like, sure, if that's their style. But I think that the language switch tells clients, "Oh, like we're gonna go bowling and then go out to drinks at our favorite restaurant, and this girl's gonna be there taking our photos like while it's happening." And then by the end of it, a lot of times my clients will be like, "Oh, that wasn't so bad." Like the guys especially, because guys are like, "Meh," with photos.
Yes.
They're like, "Oh, that wasn't bad at all. Like I didn't even know I was getting my picture taken." I'm like, "Exactly. Like that's the amount of carefreeness I want to bring to a session to be like, just you do you and I will capture what you already know exists. Your love already exists. Your relationship is already beautiful. You guys have these date nights all the time or these feelings or like the way that, he puts his hand on your back or the way that you guys lean into each other a little extra, like that already happens. I'm just here to like capture that and not like force it and be like, okay, now say cheese." Like we have to be able to
Yes.
support, yeah, the love that's already there instead of force or fake something.
Yes, absolutely. And it's not hard to do when the couple is in love
Yeah.
because they're so happy to be around each other if they're doing something they love with the person they love. As long as they feel comfortable with the photographer, with the person taking their pictures, they're gonna be so happy. Like they're gonna
Yeah.
love the moment.
Yeah. That's what we love to see.
That is what we love to see. Okay, so I have a couple questions we can also talk about this podcast. I am curious, as a wedding photographer, What is your favorite part of a wedding day?
Yeah, I was thinking about this recently and I think it's changed because have you watched the rom-com The Wedding Planner with Jennifer Lopez and Matthew McConaughey?
No, but I need to. I've been told that I need to.
It's a cute one. It's like early 2000s, which is like my favorite era of rom-coms right now. But I think she says something in there about I love when like the guy looks at her walking down the aisle, like everyone's looking at the bride, but I stare at the groom. And for the longest time, I was like, yes, Jennifer, that is me too. I'm like, J-Lo's got it right. I love watching the groom's reaction. But I think recently as a photographer, I've just seen so much change in the last like 11 years of doing this, and I will pick different parts. And right now I really like watching the parent dances in respect to the other person not dancing. So I love watching like during the mother son dance, the bride watching the two of them dance cuz it's so pure and it's like wow, like she's realizing, where this person came from and like her new parents-in-law and all this stuff, and I really like watching her reaction and then vice versa when like it's the father-daughter dance, like watching the groom watch the dad dance. I'm like, gosh, oh, it's so cute. I'm like, this is so pure. And it's just kind of a fun special moment to witness. It's so cool being a photographer too. I'm sure you feel this way all the time. Like we get to watch families grow and we get to like experience like all this emotion with them and kind of like I'm super empathetic too. So I'm like getting emotional watching complete strangers dance with their parents. And I'm like, oh man. like but it's so cute. It's so special to celebrate that with someone.
It really is. Think we have like the best job in the whole entire world, and it's such an honor to be brought into so many like very special once in a lifetime moments that these people are
Seriously.
experiencing, and to be trusted to photograph that. Like that's insane to me. But it is I love it. Like it's so awesome. I'm also a very empathetic person and cry all the
Yes.
time at weddings, vows and parent dances and every single kind of different first look always get me the most.
Oh,
Um
100%.
yes, especially first look with dads cuz I have a really close relationship with my dad.
Aw.
So seeing that like in a different family is really cool to witness too.
Also,
So
just like
I love that answer.
men showing emotion. Like, I love
Yes.
it's so pure. It's like when dads cry or the groom cries. It's just so special because I feel like obviously I could go on a soapbox here. I feel like guys aren't usually taught to show emotion in society or it's like thought as weird or soft or whatever. But I think it's so special because when you do see it, it's like that's real. Like you know that that's so genuine because most of the guys tend to like not express their emotion in certain ways or in very like obvious ways. So when they are crying or they are getting choked up, it's like you know that that's like for real for them and it's very special to see.
Yes, I 100% agree. And I think a part of the wedding day that's been really growing on me are the toasts
Oh yeah.
because all the couples I photograph are amazing. Like they're all stand up people. They're
Mm,
great. And it's really cool because I know them, you know, on a very light level as a photographer. We get to them a little bit, but not as much as their siblings or their best friends. And so hearing the toasts and all of the wonderful things that people have to say about the couple individually and together as a couple, it's
mm,
really cool to witness that because you just got to photograph their wedding and now you're just hearing confirmation of how
yeah.
awesome they are and how special this is not only to them but to people in their lives. So that's really been growing on me is and also been making me cry a lot more.
Aw, I know it's so special because I think we're meant for community. Like we just are. People are built for communal relationships. We're built to be together and to do life together. And when you see something like a wedding, like I would just say I'm not anti-elopement. But I do think like if you have, close friendships and close family members, it makes sense to do a little bit bigger of a gathering, whether that's still an intimate wedding or a full-blown party because it's like the the sum of that like what it means to have all those people in a room, validating and affirming your love and your relationship and your story and witnessing it and saying, I am not just here because I love you individually, but I'm here to support your future. And when you guys go through hard times, which, I'm married, like, yes, there's fights and all kinds of stuff happens. It's amazing to turn to my friends who were in that room with me and, like, yeah, like, we love you guys. We're praying for you. We support you. I'm like, that is so special to have those same people to hold on to in the ups and downs, because it is like we are in community, and it's really beautiful to tap into that and know that, like, you're not alone. Like, yes, there's marriage, but there's also other people you're going to have to do your marriage with, and it's really cool to see. So that's cute. I love that you love the toasts. That's awesome.
Yeah, and I was just thinking when you were saying all of that, so true. I agree with all of that. But that just shows how much more the wedding day is the beginning
Yes.
of
Yes.
so much more. The rest of your life, like it really is the beginning of your relationship for the rest of your life. Like
Yeah.
you've already begun a relationship, but this is just a whole new, it's a whole new section of being together. Like it's cool that the people who are there celebrating with you and who are toasting you at the wedding will be there for
Yeah.
the rest of your lives supporting you.
Yeah, it is. I really try to educate my couples on that same exact thing of, like, it's more than just a party, and that's a good thing. Like, the party's fun and the elopement's fun, whatever you choose, like, however you choose to get married, just be in agreement with your person, and that's really, like, all that matters. But keep in mind that it is about launching into a covenant marriage, like launching into this very, yes, serious, but also super joyful thing that's going to be, it's going to determine, like, where you live and what you do next, and if you have a family, and if that's biological, if that's adoption, if that's pets, like, the person you marry really dictates a lot of the rest of your life and what the next step is for the both of you. So choose wisely, and also spend the engagement season prepping for that wedding also, and the marriage. Like, yes, the wedding details, yes, the lighting, the cake, the colors, but also, how are we going to celebrate, each other moving forward? How are we going to do our finances? How are we going to prioritize date nights? How are we going to, set up our house? Like, what do we think about school and TV time, and do you like books? Like, I don't know. There's so much that goes into it, and I know I for sure was not, like, educated, or at least, like, prepared for after the happily ever after part. I was just kind of like, okay, cool, we're married. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, like, we didn't talk about half this stuff. So it's like, oh, the dishes, right? We need to discuss who's doing the dishes. Like, there's a lot in marriage that you should probably talk about. But it is such a fun treat once you're, yeah, headed after the wedding and into a wonderful marriage.
That's so beautiful. I love that so much, and it's so true. um
Follow for more
I'm
marriage
gonna
advice.
Yes, right. Not me, I'm not married yet, but definitely follow India for all that.
Yet.
Yet, keyword. Hello, hello. I'm popping in here real quick to let you know that I'm not running any ads for this episode, which means that I'm doing this for you for free. In fact, it's actually costing me money to get this episode out to you. But I'm doing it because I believe you can benefit from hearing wedding vendors and recent brides as you plan your own wedding. My hope is that you learn valuable advice and feel less alone in the planning process. So, if this podcast has positively impacted your life in any way, I would love if you would take 3 minutes to pause this episode, give the show a 5-star rating, and write a quick review. It would mean so much to me, and I read every single review that comes through. So thanks a bunch for listening. Let's get back to the show. Okay, I'm gonna switch gears
Yes.
completely
Okay.
because why not? We talked about things we love about weddings. Do you have any pet peeves with weddings as a photographer?
Wow. I have so many pet peeves, Gabriella, that I wrote a list of pet peeves.
I'm so here for it.
I think okay, I think at the end of the day, a photographer's job is to serve the couple. I know you, like, fully
Yes,
agree. So, there's a
I
lot of
fully agree.
things, yeah, there's a lot of things that I'm like, "That's not my style," but if it's your choice, go for it. For example, like, camo is not my vibe. The camo pattern isn't my thing. But I've had some couples who are like, "Yeah, like, we're country people. We love this. We wanna do this. This is part of our look, whatever." I'm like, "Alright, go for the camo, you know, little, what's it called? The little, like, four-wheeler they drive away? Go for it.
Oh, yeah,
You
the little John Deere.
Yes, like, you know what? Go for it. My very first wedding, their colors were neon orange, neon pink, and camo, and that was the look. So I'm like,
Wow.
"Hey, that's not my preference, but I'm here to serve you. Go for it."
Mhm.
You know? So there's things like that I'll
Amazing.
just be like, "All right, like, that's you," but that's our job, right? It's to take photos for them, not for our Instagram. Like, that could be a fun perk, but it's not the goal. The goal is like, "Hey, you had a camo wedding? You had a hot pink bridesmaids dresses? Go for it." Like, I love that for you. Um,
Yes,
but as far as
100% agree.
yes, as far as actual pet peeves, my hot take is, like, I don't mind when guests use their cell phones during the ceremony. I genuinely don't mind because I'm like, that's our human nature. We are all used to having these little devices and being like, "Oh, special moment, time to take a photo." What I do mind is when it gets in the way of the professionals. I don't care if you're being discreet and you snap a little photo and put that thing back in your purse, we're good. No, no issues. But when I've had, uncles, I've had loving friends of the couple stand in the middle of the aisle before the kiss in front of me with their iPad to take a photo. And I have to gently tap them on the shoulder and say, "Excuse me, would you mind if I step in?" And, like, that is something that I'm like, I, again, don't care if you take those photos discreetly, but do you really think that your iPad photo of this first kiss is going to be better than the $4 or $5,000 professional photography team that they invested in to capture this moment? Like, mm, probably not. I'm gonna go no. I'm gonna go they're gonna frame the photo that they paid for and not yours, respectfully. So that's my, like, my biggest pet peeve is just when I have to literally be like, "Would you please step aside?" And I'm usually try to be so polite about it. And people usually are nice when it's like group photos and they're like, "Would you mind if I grab one?" I'm like, "Absolutely. Take that photo on your phone. I get it cuz mine aren't coming back for another month." So, like, yes, take that photo. But if it's like totally interfering with the flow, or especially in those like special moments, the first kiss or the vows or anything like that, I'm like, "Please no." And the couple really paid me to get this image, so don't get in my way, please. Thank you. I don't know. How do you feel?
Yes, no, I agree with that. I also don't really mind when it, like you said, but for group photos, somebody says, "Hey, can you also take this on my iPhone?" Sure, I'm here. I'm a photographer. Like
Totally.
taking an extra 5 seconds to click this picture for you is not like a waste of my time. I will
Yes.
absolutely do that for you. I don't think of anybody stand in front of me at a wedding like ceremony, so very grateful for that. Um, I think the only time I've had iPad interference was way at the beginning of my career during COVID times.
Mhm.
There was a wedding ceremony, I think, in a restaurant, and
Mm.
in the background of the groom, like watching the bride walk down the hallway to the ceremony spot, is a big purple iPad, like recording the moment
Nope.
right next to his face
Nope.
of like looking at his bride. So that's the main time that happened, but that was in the moment of something happening, so I couldn't go to the side and be like, "Hey, stop recording." I had to just document the moment as it happened.
Right.
Um, so that was the biggest time an iPad got in the way. But I think the only time I get a little bit annoyed is when people stick their iPhones out into the aisle,
Yes.
and then it's in like the picture of the dip kiss, like coming back down the aisle. Um, but it's not the end of the world. It's just
Yeah.
it would be great if that didn't happen.
Yes. And yeah, I was gonna say most of my like pet peeves are really just about guest behavior and not anything like the couples choosing or choosing not to do. There's a few of like, tungsten lighting or really, very messy getting ready rooms, and like there's not even a clean spot to like work with and there's no natural lighting. Those things that I'm like, "Hey, maybe we could educate our couples as photographers a little bit better on like making sure your venue has some natural light, or that if you're getting ready with all your friends that before we start taking photos, we move some things away, we take those water bottles out, like we clean out a corner. Those things are fine. But a lot of the pet peeves are really like, yeah, guests not knowing like etiquette and either wearing white. I've had guests literally wear white and there's like a little drama and then the brides are feeling uncomfortable, or the groomsmen that hit on you. I've had that a couple times and I'm like but another one I was thinking about with photos, I had a wedding a couple years ago. One of the guests brought her DSLR with a flash and was like taking photos. Thankfully, not during the ceremony, but all throughout the reception was like standing and like walking around the room with me. And she like was definitely not my second shooter. I didn't know her at all. And she was like taking photos as if she was the photographer. And so again, it was like an awkward, like, I didn't really say anything, but one of the other guests was like, "Do you want me to tell her to stop?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm not sure what to do." But there's that little like there's a clause I have in my contract now about exclusivity that's basically saying like, "Hey, the couple has chosen this professional photographer to capture the images for the event. Yes, iPhone photos, take those. That's completely different. But as far as like if someone else is coming thinking that they're going to take photos and then post them on their startup photography page and be like, I shot this wedding, that's a pretty big issue for a lot of reasons. The main one being those photos circulating of that couple are going to make that couple feel like their day was misrepresented. They're like, well, that's not who I asked to shoot my wedding. That's not the style. That's not what we asked for. That's not what we paid for. So it can just be like, and it can bring up copyright issues and all this fun stuff. But I just let it go because I was like, I'm not sure how to kindly say, ma'am, would you please put your DSLR away? Unless you want to work for me, then we can talk. But some things like that, just that random like behavior of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take photos and then post them and say that this was my wedding, or I'm going to hit on the photographer and ask if she's single. And I'm like those things that I'm like, that is a pet peeve. Definitely a no go for me.
Yes, I can agree with that. I've had some DSLR guests at weddings, and usually I don't think they've ever like fully gotten in the way of me, which is I think the biggest issue I would have.
Right.
And I don't know why it always looks like an uncle. I'm not sure if it is like the correct relation, but it
Yeah.
just looks like it would be an uncle.
Yeah.
Every time that it's happened to me, uh, and so they take pictures from like their seat at the reception or wherever they're seated at the ceremony, and okay, cool. Like as long as you're not getting in the way of my pictures. I don't. It's just funny that that happens to so many photographers at weddings that somebody
Yeah.
else brings their
I'm like,
camera.
if you want a second shoot, we just have to talk about it beforehand. But I don't think you're second
Yeah.
shooting. I'm not sure what you're doing. Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I man, I don't know about that one.
Odd vibes.
Okay. Yes. Any others you want to touch on before we do a little rapid fire
Yes.
questioning?
Oh, okay. This one's just like a random pet peeve when, and I understand it, but when, the makeup and hair is all done, the bride looks stunning, and then they do like that first look or the like a prayer with their mom or a first look with their dad, and then everyone's like, "Don't cry, don't cry, don't cry." I'm like, Cry. If that's how you feel, like if we're talking about authenticity in front of a camera and not being performative, I think it's more performative to like be so worried about your makeup, which I understand you just got all done up. But I think like let that emotion happen. Like we can always put more concealer on, but if this is your one big day to feel all the feels and celebrate your next step in life, it's all right to cry. It's okay to feel sad or excited or happy or joyful. Like this is the day to feel the feels. So I think that's one of my things. I never like, say anything about it because I'm like, yeah, I get it. Like they just paid a lot of money for their makeup. But I'm like, it's okay. Like here's a tissue if you need it. Like I want people just, I guess, to feel the whole range of what they're going through on the wedding day and not have to, like be worried just about, oh, is that going to mess up my makeup, or the veil's going to mess up my hair. It's like, hey, if you want that veil, put it in. If you want to give that person a hug and your makeup gets on their jacket, that's okay. Like, we'll figure it out. I just want you to feel like the way you want to today.
Yes, absolutely. And two things with that too. I mean, I agree that you should definitely feel all the feels because it is a very emotion heavy day.
Yeah.
But when it comes to like crying, your makeup artist knows that you're probably going to cry the day of. And even if you don't, it's a long day, and so they're preparing for that with the makeup and the hair. Like they're locking you into place. When I was a bridesmaid at my friend's wedding in December and we got our hair and makeup done and it was so fun. And I remember I think I pulled like 20 bobby pins out of my hair. I had a high pony in.
Mm,
And when I took like the hair tie out, my hair like stayed in the
amazing.
position. Yes, and then I TMI, I didn't shower that night. I showered the next morning.
I love it.
But when I woke up that next morning, my hair was still parted perfectly the way
That's
that she had parted it. So,
amazing.
yeah, they work magic. And so I fully believe in hair and makeup artists that way. But also like there's extra, concealer, there's extra lipstick you can always touch
Exactly.
up. And your photographer's on your side. Like we're on your team. We want
Yeah.
you to, yes, feel the feels. We also want you to feel your best. So
Yes.
like if we notice something's off, like a piece of hair has fallen out, we'll tell you. And
Yeah.
we'll make sure you can fix it and feel comfortable with how you look because that's
Yes.
like we're just here to support you.
100%. And I think that's so true. Like, your hair artist, your makeup artist, your photographer, like, we are all like doing our best to make you feel your best. So trust that expertise. They're going to use the waterproof mascara. Like, we're going to do the best. But then something I'm sure you do this as well, is if there is something that you're like, oh, I don't know if she wanted her bangs to fall that way, I'll show them the picture. I'll be like, this, just so you know, your hair looks like this. Is this good? And they'll be like, oh, thank you. And they'll like do their thing. And so it's just a quick way to say, like, I know that I don't mind it if my couple is like spinning around and their hair's getting all windswept. I'm like, yes, that's so pretty. But if someone had a specific look or started looking at, their earring was this way and now it kind of turned that way, I'm just like, just so you know, like, your necklace is kind of spun around, or like your hair is a little different, and then they can go, oh, it's fine, or let's do that again. So it's just that courtesy again of like, this is why it's important to choose your photographer wisely, because some of them will take that extra care and just jump in and be like, how can we make you feel your best, look your best, and check in on you the whole time.
Yes, absolutely. Choose vendors who care. That's
Hmm.
the biggest thing.
I'm getting a tattoo that says that.
You should though.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, I have a couple of rapid fire I guess topics for what your wedding photographer actually feels about dot dot
Okay,
dot.
I love it.
And I know, another disclaimer, we're here for all of our clients, and
All
whatever
good.
they choose to do is
Yes.
great. And we will photograph it to the best of our ability and do our jobs to the best of our ability. However, we have personal opinions too
Yes.
that we won't voice on your wedding day. So it's fun to voice otherwise. So,
Yes.
what your wedding photographer actually feels about rapid fire number one, uplighting at receptions.
Is that the little lighting on the floor?
Yeah, it's on the floor, it goes up on the side of the walls.
Okay. I feel pretty mid. I don't really have a strong preference for or against it. My one thought is that when the actual dance floor opens up and there's a lot of dancing, I would say get rid of it and just have the normal strobe lights, because it makes people feel like it's darker, the atmosphere is a little more groovy, but I don't really have a strong opinion. I don't know if that helps.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm typically okay if it's like the amber uplighting or like the neutral tones.
Mm,
I just personally don't love when it's like bright colors in the background that may
yes,
not
okay,
match
that
the
makes
vibe
sense.
of the wedding.
Like
Yes, that's
neon green or like red or
neon
something.
green, hot pink, red,
Blue,
things
dark
like that.
blues can be kinda wacky on your camera
Yes.
too.
Yes, not my preference there
Yeah.
because it's, yeah. Okay. The photo dash at the reception. Do you know what this is?
Yes, I do. Okay. Okay. I don't mind it because I know what it's like to be a bride who wants those photos with everyone. I've seen it done poorly and I've seen it done well. And so I think if you're going to do a photo dash, my tip would be have everyone come to you instead of you go to everyone. So I had this cool wedding recently where there was kind of like an aisle where like tables were on either side. So it was kind of like a clear line through the reception hall, and the couple stood at one place and the DJ was like, "All right, table 1, go, go, go." They'd all rush in, we'd take 2 photos and they all ran out. "Table 2, go, go, go." And at first I was like, "Is this going to be more chaos?" And it was, but everyone was smiling, everyone had fun with it, and it made it easier for the bride who had a very specific gown and didn't want to have to take her train and roll it around the whole venue. It was a lot of fun, a lot of chaos. He played one song and everyone had to the pressure of like getting to them, take the photo and go back. So I thought that was a lot of fun. I've also seen people just like slowly meander around and greet their guests. And then I'm kind of like awkwardly tailing them and trying to take a photo, but then people get up and use the bathroom. Not everyone's there. So that's why I would say I do like the photo dash when it's done with like a song or a countdown. So you have a set amount of time. And I did like that process of having the couple stand in one spot and then everyone come in and out of the frame. It was kind of a mad chaotic moment, but the photos were great. So that's my thought.
Yeah, that I like that, having everybody come to the couple. That's a great idea. I've never done a photo dash that way. I've found that photo dashes work only, I guess, if the couple's moving around, then the only way for it to work well is if everybody's standing and like
Yeah.
ready and waiting for them.
Yes.
So I'll usually send my second photographer ahead, to make sure they're all standing and not like awkwardly stretched out around the table
Yes.
behind, which is something that I had to learn the hard way. I didn't realize people would do that first time for a photo dash. So getting them all standing together is the best way to do it. It is fun for the couple and for the guests. So as long as it is like thought out and just, I guess, organized as much as it could be, because it is kind of chaotic. I think they're fun for the couples.
Right. And it's also like I think a lot of guests don't realize you're probably not going to get a photo with a couple unless you as the guest initiate that. So when we as photographers go through their wedding timeline and their shot list, we usually leave space for family photos and maybe some specific group photos like all your college friends or all your extended cousins. But usually it's not like every family that's attending this wedding is going to get a formal photo with this couple unless there's a photo booth, and then that's something they have to do on their own, or if that guest goes up and says, "Can we take a selfie?" So I think that photo dash is a good opportunity for both the couple and the guest to make sure that they've participated and the couple can remember, "Oh, that's right, that person was there. Oh, that's so sweet that they were able to join us for the day." Because those memories come and go, and it's nice to have that nice picture and be like, "Oh, that's right, that was your wedding day." And so I do think you should do them as a guest, or as a couple if you're planning a wedding. Do a photo dash, but we've got our tips here for you to know how to do it best.
Yes, absolutely. And you've got options too.
Yes.
Definitely have options there.
Yes.
Um, okay, next one, receiving lines.
I think they're fine. I just don't think they're going to be amazing photos. And again, not everything you're doing is for a picture. So do it as a way to greet your guests and say, "Hey." Another hot tip, I loved this planner's method. One of my very first weddings, she had the couple stand and do the receiving line in front of the buffet so that the guests didn't linger too long because everyone was hungry. So
That's
instead of
amazing.
like after the ceremony, that awkward, like everyone, of course, is going to want to chat, give you a hug. And then everyone is standing trying to leave the ceremony to get to the next location. And it was like a big traffic jam. It was so smart of her to be like, "Hey, the bride and groom are going to hand you your plate, give you a hug, and then you're going to be free to go grab your food." And it was also kind of a cute thing because the couple wanted to do like serve a little bit. They got to serve their guests and then they sat to eat while speeches happened. So I thought it was really classy way of being like, "Hey, love you, glad you're here. Now go eat." So,
That's amazing. I love that a lot because that makes so much sense.
right?
Because you still get to see everybody, and I agree they don't usually make the best pictures just because you're facing each other kind of close, you're hugging, and then you move on. So there's not, the photographer can't do too much there. Um, but then you get to see everybody, and
Exactly.
they get their food, and everybody's happy.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay, one more rapid fire. Formal exits.
Ooh, I like them. I like sparkler exits still. I'm still a sparkler exit girly. I think it's super fun. I think the pressure of staying as a guest could probably feel a little weird if they're like, "Oh, do I need to stay all the way till 11? Like I'm feeling tired or I have a long drive or something." So I think that's up to each guest, but if you know that there is one happening and you're feeling the energy, please stay for it because I think that's meaningful to the couple, to know that, like, there was more than just 2 people that stuck around for those sparklers at the end of the night. Those photos are gonna be something they really enjoy and hold on to for a while. So if you're capable or if the lodging's close or if there's a shuttle, stay for that sparkler exit, but otherwise, I would say, use your best judgment. I also love fake exits. So maybe after the ceremony, if you have a different location for the reception, like a little flower toss or confetti that's biodegradable or something like that that guides everyone from one spot to the next. That way you don't have to worry about the end of the night kind of thing. Yeah, what are your thoughts with that?
I'm a big exit girly. I love
Yeah.
them so much. I think they're so much fun.
Yeah.
Um, I also love a good logistical exit, or making it work logistically, like
Yes.
kind of, you know, doing two things at once,
Right.
like the exit for the ceremony. That's great because you get the exit, but you're already recessing down the aisle. People are already standing there. Like that. That's awesome. That works super great. And then with formal exits, like at the end of the night, I think it's great to have a private last dance before that
Yes.
happens, so that
Yes.
everybody can leave and be set up in line, because that takes time for guests to be told, hey, stand in these two lines, especially if there's some alcohol flowing. That can be hard to focus and pay attention to know exactly where to stand and
Yes.
what to do. So I think that they're great, and I think that if it's at the end of the night, it should also be combined to the privaless dance, because that's
Yes.
also fun for the couple. So
Yes, that is one of my wedding day regrets, which could be a whole nother episode. I've got a whole bunch of things that I'm like, "Oh, I wish I did this." But one is I didn't know about the, last dances yet, and if we had, that would have been so nice. Instead, I had the DJs, like, play some music so I could go grab my bag and, like, fill it with all my stuff, and then we did the sparkler exit, but then I just, like, left, and so if we did a last dance, that would have been way nicer to guide the guests outside and have a bridesmaid do my bag, and then I could have, like, done the sparkler exit and then, come back inside and grab anything I need to, but in my head, I was like, "Nope, we gotta go, like, this is it." So, I think that's such a special moment for couples to, like, just cap in the night, right? You start with the first dance, you get to end with the last dance and feel present in that wedding day and be like, "We did it. This is it. We're not rushing to the next thing. We cleared the dance floor, and now our friends and family are out there to say farewell and wish us into marriage." Like, how cool is that?
amazing. Love that so much. Okay, wrapping up, I
Okay.
have a two-pronged question for you,
Yeah.
since you are a married person.
Aw.
Um, what is your biggest tip for couples planning their wedding, both professionally, so as a photographer, and then personally as a wife?
Wow, okay. So oh, okay, yes. The biggest thing from a personal note is delegate responsibility. My personality type is like, I wanna be organized, I can do all these things, let me DIY everything, like, let me Wonder Woman this stuff like, it can be really hard for me to put something on someone else, not because I don't think they'll do a good job, but because I feel a little, like, guilty. I'm like, "Am I allowed to ask for a favor?" Like, and it's like, yes, especially to the, like, women that you invite to be your bridesmaids and your bridal party. Those people love you the most. Like, it's okay to delegate, and I struggled with that a little bit during our engagement. We also were engaged during COVID and got married during COVID, so it was like, we had all those restrictions too of like, "Hey, am I bothering you to ask you to run this errand and pick up these flowers so that I could grab this?" And then so that was a whole nother layer. But even so, I had a painting party with some of my bridesmaids to do our decor. So we did a bunch of like glass bottles and then we had them over and painted them on a Friday night. And it was funny because they were joking about how most girls do sip and paints where there's wine and a canvas, and I was like having them peel off labels of like old pickle jars and wine bottles, and they're like, this is India's version of a paint night. It's like we are painting decor, and I'm like, yes, we are. So it's
I
but
love
people
that.
want to do that. They want to love on you. They want to participate. And we did like a dessert bar instead of just, a huge cake. We did like a smaller cake. And then I invited all of my mom friends and my, parents of my friends growing up to make a dessert of their choice and bring it on the wedding day. And so it's again that community event. Yes, it's budget friendly too. That's also a big plus, but also it involves so many people and they can feel like I participated in that. I got to serve in this way. It's my honor to make you, scones and cupcakes and cookies to share with people. Like all that is totally fun and enjoyable for people to serve in that way. So definitely delegate, have someone on hand and maybe extra people on hand the actual wedding day for random things. We were lucky to have a friend step in and help coordinate our wedding day. Huge blessing. I didn't have to worry about the ice and the drinks and keeping things cold. I didn't have to worry about loading stuff up after the day, like all of our decor. She loaded it all up. Fun story, our arbor that we got married under, my little brother built it and she loaded it into her car and it cracked her windshield. So, we did have to help out with that one, but things like that, like it was nice to have like I didn't have to stress about my windshield being cracked when I was driving off to my honeymoon. Unfortunately, someone else had to, but we took care of it. So all good there. But just the access of saying, "Hey, would you have someone that can go grab lighters at the store for the sparkler exit? Can you make sure there's ice in that thing?" Just having those bodies on hand. And sometimes it can feel awkward to ask. I need, 5 people to kind of be on deck. But if we're talking about like saving a little extra money if your wedding budget's tight or not wanting your parents or your bridal party to have to get up and move things around, just tap in a couple favors of some friends and just be like, would you mind doing this for me? Like, and people are more than willing to do anything for a couple that's getting married. They're like, absolutely, like this is such a easy ask and something that people can do. So have ask your people, have your people on hand, delegate your tasks, and also my other tip is just save more than you think and be willing to spend more than you've budgeted if you can. I know that that can be, money's money. Sometimes you just, this is the budget. That's what it is. Ours was pretty low. So we were like, this is what we've got. But at the end of it, I was like, okay, I don't have any regrets on like saving a couple extra bucks here or there. But I forgot that like people give money to people when they get married. So I was like, "Oh, like we got some nice financial like little gifts and gift cards." I'm like, I could have, hired an extra waiting staff person to help distribute the food so it wasn't such a long wait. Or I could have, spent a little extra on a florist because I ended up like my friend and I did the wedding flowers ourselves. So things like that where I could have delegated and put a little money there and said, okay, I'm going to give that task to someone else. I'm going to pay for it. But then you get some time back, you get some peace of mind back, and you don't have to feel so rushed on the day of. So little things like that I was like, okay, if I would have saved a little extra and anticipated some of these costs being higher, that would have given a little bit more peace of mind for some of those things. But yeah, I feel like I have my own podcast that isn't quite wedding photography related, but I am gonna do our wedding regrets episode with my husband later this year because I'm like, we never thought we'd have wedding day regrets, but some of those things are in that category of like, oh, I should have like, maybe saved up a little extra for this and that so that I wasn't running to Trader Joe's to get my wedding flowers 2 days before we got married and dousing them. This is a true story, Gabriella, dousing them in coffee grounds because I wanted them to be a cream color and they only had white roses.
Oh my
See, if
gosh.
I would have just saved, I could have hired a professional florist, but instead, I was determined to do it myself. So,
Wow, that
yeah,
is, I mean, quite smart. I don't think I would even think of that to use coffee grounds to turn
it
something
didn't
white
work.
into something.
It did
Okay.
not work, if you were wondering.
Oh no. I'm
But
so
it's
sorry.
all good. See, no one noticed the difference between white and off-white. They were like, "It's all good. There's flowers."
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think that can be said for things at large too. Like your guests are not going to notice a lot of little teeny tiny details that you probably
Nope.
spent a lot of time agonizing over the decision making for.
Yes.
Like how
Yes.
your napkins are folded or your
Yes.
exact centerpieces for the reception tables.
Or, what the guest gift was. Some people don't even know there is a gift, and they're like
Yes.
we got, whole bean coffee and then put them in little tiny jars, and then, of course, because 'cause I'm insane, individually, I drew flowers on all the jars with these cool, like, Sharpie pens, these, like, white ink pens. It was really pretty, but half the guests didn't know that they were for them to take. They thought they were decor. They're like, "Oh, coffee, that's nice." And so I still have 3.5 years later in my basement an entire stack of these decorated jars full of coffee beans. So I'm like,
Oh my
fantastic.
gosh.
So yes, a lot you're so right. A lot of the decisions couples stress about, really, it's gonna be fine. And the most important thing is that you got married. So that's
Yes.
the most important thing.
That's the only thing that needs to happen on your wedding day. Like
Mhm.
that is truly it. Everything
That's what
else
it's for.
is it's extra fluff, it's icing on the cake, it's
Yeah.
extra fun.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yay! Well, thank you
Of
so
course.
much. It was so fun having you on. I love chatting about weddings and just hearing your perspective on things and your married perspective on things as well. Not only
Heck
photographer,
yeah.
but also married. So I had a great time. Um, and yeah, I'm just grateful you were on.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been so fun. Obviously, I would love to come back and chat more marriage tea because it's the best and it's so fun to, like, yeah, be a wedding photographer and then also get to experience marriage and be like, now I can educate my couples on how to, like, step into this next season and more than just the day. But thank you so much. This has been such a treat to be here. I love it.
Yes. And everybody go listen to India's podcast, India and Stuff.
Heck yeah.
She talks about lots of like life things. So if you're looking for a break from the wedding planning, that's where you need to go.
Yes, definitely. Indian stuff is, I think it's everywhere, but mostly on Spotify and YouTube. And then if anyone wants to connect, I'm on Instagram as well at India Jade Photo. So thanks so much, Gabriella.
Yay, thanks for being on.
Of course. Bye.
That was so much fun. I love India so much, and I'm so glad we got connected this fall. Make sure you go follow her podcast, Indian Stuff, for more personal life chats that will spark some more joy into your day, and follow her on Instagram at India Jade Photo. If you love this episode, please share it to your Instagram story. Tag both me and India. I'm Gabriella Mariotti, and India is India Jade Photo, so we can see that you are enjoying the show. Now go hug your person. I'll see you next Wednesday.